Howdy friends, vinyl community, cheers. It has been entirely too long since I made a video, so finally feeling a little better. I've been under the weather past couple weeks and just haven't been in the mood to do any videos, but I'm back, ready to get back into this thing and make some new videos for you to watch. So thanks for tuning in. This is another episode of the Vinyl Survivor. This is where I talk about 5 albums that were pulled from my inbox or recent purchases and let you know what I thought of them. So here we go. Let's go ahead and get into it. One of these things is not like the other. I'll let you try and figure that out. The first album we have here is Houses of the Holy from Led Zeppelin. It's their 5th studio album from 1973. Of course, classic. I mean, this is a classic album. Most people probably know this one quite well, as they do all of the Led Zeppelin albums. You have a printed inner sleeve with lyrics, and I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but this is this inner sleeve is textured. Has a little bit of a sort of an embossed pattern on it, I guess you could say, which is something to note on this. As on the Atlantic label. I don't know if it's going to be able to pick up this on camera, but the address on the bottom of this is 1841 Broadway. So this is actually a first pressing of Houses of the Holy. Originally would have had an obi strip sort of on it that would had the title on. I think it went crosswise. I don't remember exactly. It's something you don't really ever see with this album. And this has Sterling RL in the dead wax, so it was a Robert Ludwig mastering at Sterling. So yeah, that's the good news. First pressing, Robert Ludwig mastering. The bad news, this thing is completely thrashed. It is just, it's bad. It's got pops and ticks and scrapes and scuffs, and yeah, it's sad. I can't put this in my collection. It's just not, it's not really worth listening to at all. It's an original, but it's unfortunately too far gone. This is helping to make all the other originals in the world more valuable. So yeah, cool album from Led Zeppelin. Unfortunately, this one just didn't make it. Houses of the Holy is a little bit of a change of form for Led Zeppelin. They move away from their sort of blues rock roots into some other styles and genres, a little bit more acoustic sounding. They do more of like almost a reggae sounding, reggae influenced style here in some places. Just a cool album all around. Like I said, a change of pace for Led Zeppelin, and yeah, unfortunately this one can't go in the collection, but hope to find one someday that's worthy of going in the collection. So, Houses of the Holy, Led Zeppelin. Alright, next we have an album also from 1973. This is the 5th album, also the 5th album from the band Genesis. So both Genesis and Led Zeppelin released their 5th albums in 1973. This is the classic Selling England by the Pound. Just a prog masterpiece here. This is everything that everybody says it is. This was my first time hearing this album. I hadn't heard this album before listening to this particular copy here, and it is just an amazing prog album. Just wow, this thing is killer. Can't say enough good things about this. If you like prog music and you haven't heard this for some reason, absolutely track down a copy of this. It's worth spending money to buy this, to have this in your collection. And this is a US pressing on the Mad Hatter label. So it's sort of, it says on the back of the jacket here, produced by Atlantic Records. You get a famous Charisma label on the vinyl itself. I think this might have come from the Habitat for Humanity thrift store. I don't remember exactly where I picked this up at, but it's just a beautiful copy, beautiful, perfect copy of this, just about. Sounds great, and yeah, just a prog masterpiece. Absolutely put this in your collection if you're into prog. Definitely a worthwhile Genesis album. Okay, moving forward into the 1980s, we have the 11th studio album from Genesis. This is Abacab. This album came with 4 different covers. This is cover B. You'll see a little letter at the top of the spine there that will tell you which version of the cover you have. They all have this sort of abstract style to them. They look similar, but if you put them next to each other, you obviously will see the difference in the colors and the shapes and everything, the patterns. So there's four of these. I'd eventually like to have all 4 of them. This will be going into my collection. This one actually has some water damage along the bottom, so I need to replace the cover on this one. So this album was sort of a change of pace for Genesis. They decided to completely step away from their prog roots and move more towards a pop, the stripped down pop rhythmic sensibilities that they had in the 80s. Definitely lost a lot of fans along the way with that sort of style, but gained a lot more mainstream popularity. And this is the Genesis that I grew up on and the Genesis I knew, so it's not as, I guess it's not as challenging for me to like this form of Genesis as well as the prog form of Genesis. So I really like these 80s albums from Genesis, and this has Abacab, No Reply at All, Man on the Corner. I love Man on the Corner. Just a killer song, just stripped down, cool 80s song there. And this did come from the library sale, green, which I think is 50 cents. Band photo here with the three remaining members of the band at this point. Just some liner notes on the back. And we have custom labels to match the cover art on here. This is mastered at Townhouse in London, and it is pressed at Europa Disc. And overall, just a good beginning to a pop version of Genesis, and certainly an album I really like, and this will be going in my collection. So I guess you probably already know whether you like the pop Genesis or not, and so this will be either loved or hated by you as well, I think. Quite polarizing, but a good album and going in my collection. Okay, next up we have the follow-up album to Abacab. This is just Genesis's self-titled album, sometimes called the Mama album because it features the hit song Mama on here, as well as That's All, Home by the Sea, Second Home by the Sea, Taking It All Too Hard, Illegal Alien, just tons and tons. Almost every song on here was a hit. From 1983, shapes here come from that Tupperware ball that had the shapes cut out in it, and you had these plastic pieces and you put them in. I remember having one of those as a kid, so that's kind of cool to see that on there. And yeah, just another, I mean, this is very, very poppy, very stripped down 80s, almost dark sounding inner sleeve with some lyrics and liner notes and photos. Just, you know, it's always cool. This is reasons I love vinyl, is just you get nice amount of liner notes and photos, and just so awesome. Way better than some stupid MP3. And then this just has a generic Atlantic orange and green label. This is an RCA Music Club issue of this album, so I don't know if this had a custom label or not. I think I might have some more copies of this in the inbox somewhere, so maybe I'll find that out at some point. Nothing particularly noteworthy in the dead wax. Has the big S with the R and the C in the open parts of the S, so that's Specialty Records. Corp is where this was pressed at. And yeah, once again, I mean, we're talking about the pop version of Genesis. You probably already know if you love them or hate them. If you hate them, you're probably gone already now anyway. But I love this form of Genesis, and it's what I grew up on, and I love, you know, songs like That's All and Home by the Sea and Mama, and still enjoyable to listen to all these years after. So. Okay, so next up, I'm sure this won't be too much of a surprise to you all. This is the 13th studio album from the band Genesis. This is titled Invisible Touch from 1986. So we have a 3-year gap between this one and this one. So pretty long gap, but still continuing on in their pop ways. They're stripped down, very synthy, sort of new wave sort of sounds. So you got Invisible Touch, Tonight, 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 Land of Confusion, Into Deep, Anything She Does Is Magic, and Throwing It All Away. Another album that's just full of huge monster hits for the band, and another sort of wonderful 80s synth pop album from Genesis. Yeah, I guess synth pop would be an okay thing to say. Another album I really love. I love these songs. I grew up listening to these songs and enjoy hearing them, and I enjoy hearing the other songs on the albums that I didn't actually get to hear on the radio. There's the nice photo of the three there, and then some lyrics on the inner liner here, and it says back to having custom labels, orange on one side, green on the other. Atlantic, DMM in the dead wax, so direct metal mastering, and this has master disc RL, so that's Robert Ludwig again. We started this episode with Robert Ludwig, and we're ending with him on a totally different band. Yeah, cool 80s pop album from Genesis. Another one, I really don't have to spend much time on these. I mean, everybody knows these songs, and you know whether you like them or not. So, Invisible Touch going in the collection. So, yeah, thanks for watching another episode of the Vinyl Survivor. I hope that the future episodes of this won't be quite as one-sided here. The 4 Genesis albums are going to be staying in my collection, and unfortunately the Led Zeppelin album just didn't make it. It's a good album. It's a classic album. It's sort of a change of pace for the band, but this particular copy is just way too far gone for me to keep. On the lookout for a nice original copy of that, or at least a nice vintage copy of that album. So I want to thank you for watching another episode of the Vinyl Survivor. If you like this show and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe already, and you'll be kept up to date with new episodes. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers.